So you two are new. Do you know about the IELTS test? Like, so it's an English language test to check whether you actually know English or not. The thing is, we know English because we go to English medium schools. But if you apply to countries like Australia or Canada, they don't accept that a student who has studied up to plus two level in Nepal is good in English. They don't believe us. They want to take a separate test. But some countries accept. Like in some countries like UK and some other European countries, just your plus two score is enough. In plus two, in English, if you got 60, 70, that is enough. But in countries like USA, Canada, they don't accept it. They want to take a separate IELTS test. And how to test if you know English or not? They do it by four things. First thing is you have to be able to speak in English. So there's a speaking test. Then you have to understand listening as well. You have to listen to things in English and understand that. Third thing is you have to know how to write in English. And the fourth thing is, do you understand English words, vocabulary, and grammar or not? That is what reading is. And in this class right now, we are preparing for that, practicing reading. Reading basically means you will get a text, you have to read the text, and there will be some questions. You have to find the answers of the questions in the text. Now it has already been, I guess, 10 12 days that we started doing this, but don't worry, whatever you have missed, we will come back to it, we'll revise it again. But today we'll try one question type in reading. Last time I guess we did yes, no, not given questions. No? Yes. Anyway, now there are some questions that we have not done yet in this class. I guess we have done multiple choice questions as well. Today, let us do matching heading questions. What I mean by matching heading questions, you will see examples of that on IELTS 13, page number 20. Do you have a book? Look at that. IELTS 13, page number 20. If you are on the right page, you will see a box that says a list of headings, and in that box you will see there are 8 options in Roman numbers. You see that? Okay. First, let me tell you what the question is about. You can see this is the text given to us. The text, why being bored is stimulating. The text, it has 6 parts from A to F. Do you see? Okay. So for these 6 parts, what is the best heading for each of these 6 parts? Like for paragraph A, what is the best heading? The option is given in the box. So out of those 8 options, one of them is the best heading for paragraph A. Similarly for paragraph B, and we do it so on and so forth till we get to the end. You can see there are 6 paragraphs and there are 8 options. Means 2 options are not going to be used at all. There are extra options that will not be used. And the other thing is, matching headings question is the only question that comes before the passage. So this question is for this passage. Usually questions come after the passage. These questions are for this passage. But matching headings questions come before the passage. So sometimes by mistake, what you might think is this question is for this earlier passage, which is not the case. Remember, they always come before the passage starts. Or if you don't have to guess, you can just look at here, reading passage 2. This is reading passage 1. So for this passage, these questions are there. Now technically, these are very difficult and time consuming questions because to read the entire paragraph and to understand what the paragraph is, and then from the options to select the best heading. Again, sometimes 2 headings seem to match. We have to find the best one. It is very time consuming in that way. And in the exam, we have to solve many questions within a short period of time. So that technique is not a good technique to read everything, which you can do, but I don't think you will have time to do that. So rather, there's a shortcut to it. Now the shortcut is also not very short, but it is at least shorter than reading the entire thing. So there are some fundamental things that you have to understand for matching headings question. And you can write these things down if you want to write them. So some basic facts first. When I say matching headings, headings means these options given here. The list of headings, you can see the 8 options given there. So what are we matching the heading with? We are matching the heading with a paragraph. Now see how difficult it is to match dissimilar things. This heading, like number 1, it says the productive outcome that may result from boredom. That heading. It has how many words? I guess 8 words. This heading. We are matching these 8 words into this paragraph, which is I don't know 100 words long. So matching a small line with a big paragraph, we are matching unlike things. How do they match? So rather than matching the heading with the entire paragraph, you should try to match the heading with a single sentence of that paragraph. That single sentence is called a topic sentence. So each paragraph, all of these from A to F have one sentence called a topic sentence. They exist in each of these paragraphs. Our job is to know which is the topic sentence. Like in paragraph A, which is the topic sentence? In paragraph B, which one is it? So each paragraph has one. If you know which sentence is the topic sentence, that sentence will give you the answer. So you don't have to read the entire paragraph. Just one sentence of the paragraph is enough to find the answer. That one sentence will match with this option here. So matching a line with another line is easier than matching a line with a paragraph. So how to identify the topic sentence? Each paragraph has one, but which sentence is the topic sentence? Usually the first sentence is the topic sentence. So remember this thing. When I say usually, I don't mean always. Usually means most of the times. The first sentence is the topic sentence. So from each paragraph, if you just read the first sentence, that first sentence will match with one of the options, which is still a difficult thing to do because reading, for example, reading the first sentence of the first paragraph, one sentence, and you have to read all the 8 options to see which one of them will match it. But that is what happens. And if you want to give it a probability, out of 100%, 60% chance is there for the first sentence to be the to give you the answer. So from each paragraph, just read the first sentence, and that sentence will match with one of the options. Usually 60%. But the remaining 40%, what happens? Sometimes what you do is you read the first sentence and look at the options. You will see none of the options will match. Sometimes that happens as well. In that case, the second sentence can also be the topic sentence if the first sentence did not match. Now, I am not saying read both sentences and try to match with the option. Read the first sentence. If that matches, that is the answer. If that doesn't match, only in that case, the second sentence may be the answer. So at least it will save you some time. Rather than reading the entire paragraph, reading just 1 or 2 lines will give you the answer. And the probability of the second sentence being the answer is, I guess, 15% chance. So usually first sentence in most questions, like in this 6 questions, 60% of 6, I don't know how much would that be. I guess 3. I don't know. Out of this 6, 3 of them, you will see that the first sentence is the answer, but 1 or 2, the first sentence will not be the answer. In that case, the second sentence will give you the answer. Now again, what happens is sometimes you read the first, it doesn't match. You read the second, it doesn't match. Both don't match. Sometimes it happens as well in a difficult question. In that case, don't read the third sentence because third sentences don't give you the answer. Always read the last sentence because the last sentence can also be the topic sentence. So if the first doesn't match, the second doesn't match, then read the last sentence. And the last sentence will match with one of the options. And again, that will be the case in about 10% of the questions. The last sentence will be the answer. Now again, the question might sometimes be more difficult than this. In some questions, the first, the second, the last, all of them don't match with the option. In that case, the second last sentence may be the answer. And if you are wondering, if we read the first, second, last, second, last, we'll read the entire paragraph, but that only happens in some questions. Most questions, just one line will give you the answer. Many questions, just two lines will give you the answer. Now, some questions, three or four lines you have to read to find the answer. But again, what I'm saying is, if the second last sentence has the answer, you don't have to understand what first, second, third sentence, this sentences mean. You don't have to understand them. Just one sentence will give you the answer. That one sentence. That sentence doesn't depend on the first sentence. So you don't have to remember four sentences to find the answer. Just this one will give the answer. So read one sentence, try to match. If it doesn't match, forget the sentence. Just erase it from your memory. Forget that sentence. Read the second sentence and try to match. Again, go on in that way. But there are only very rare questions where you have to go to up to this limit. Usually, first, second will give you the answer. Usually, and there is only one more place. If first, second, last, any of them don't match, in that case, there is only one other sentence that could be the topic sentence. That is the shortest sentence. When I say the shortest, I mean the one that has the fewest words, a short sentence. So one of these sentences is the topic sentence in a paragraph. Now some paragraphs are very short, but some paragraphs are long. Like look at this text, paragraph E, paragraph B, paragraph A, very long paragraphs. In these paragraphs, reading the entire paragraph will take a long time, obviously. So you can save your time in the exam by reading just these lines of the paragraph. Again, my main point is, don't read first, second, all of them and then think what the answer is. Just read one, just the first sentence. And then you will see one of the options might match. And if it doesn't, then go to the second. If that doesn't, go to the last. Again, don't read the second last before you read the last. Always go in this order. Last and then second last. And then the shortest sentence as well, because the probability of answer being in these sentences are higher than the others. So I hope you get what I'm telling you. So let's try this technique with these questions today. The topic you can see of the passage, it says, why being bored is stimulating and useful too. And I think we have read this text a little bit before as well. Why being bored is useful for our life. Stimulating means it makes our senses active. If you remember learning in biology, stimulus or stimulating, when our senses, sense, hearing, smell, vision, these kinds of things, they become active, is called stimulating. So when we are bored, they become active. I don't know. And useful as well. It is useful to be bored. Before we start, we have to read the questions first. Let me read the questions one by one. And let's understand what the questions are. Number one. The productive outcomes that may result from boredom. What does it mean, productive outcomes? It means benefits, not manufacture. Manufacture in a different case, maybe manufacturing, production is manufacture, but here productive outcome, outcome means result, and being productive means a benefit, a good result that comes from boredom. So when we read the paragraphs in these sentences, in any one of these sentences, if it mentions about productive things, like good things, when we get bored, good things happen, then that may be the answer. Number two, what teachers can do to prevent boredom. I don't know what teachers can do, maybe make the class more interesting, but what can teachers do to prevent students from being bored in the class? So if any sentence will say that, then that may be the answer. Number three, a new explanation and a new cure for boredom. So, what is boredom? When we get bored, it depends on people as well. Like some people find reading very boring. Some people might find I don't know, watching movies boring. Some people might find listening to speech boring. Whatever is boring, but a new explanation of what is boring and a new cure as well. How can we prevent ourselves from being bored? Do you suffer from that? Like I find most students are bored when they study. Study is not exciting; it's boring. But if you can find a cure, how to cure your boredom, then maybe studying will be fun as well. So whichever paragraph talks about that. Number four, problems with a scientific approach to boredom. What does it mean? Problems with a scientific approach. Approach means going to it. So science going to boredom means science, I guess, studying boredom. Going doesn't mean physically going somewhere, I guess. Approach means going, reaching somewhere. Science reaching boredom means science try to understand what boredom is. Just like when we understand what chemicals are, what biology is, similarly, what is boredom? Science is trying to understand that. Number five, a potential danger arising from boredom. So, what is bad if we get bored? Look, I guess you can see the difference. Number one and number five. Number one talks about benefits of boredom. Number five talks about the dangers of boredom. So, maybe we will find one of those. Number six, creating a system of classification for feelings of boredom. So, when we feel bored, all types of boredom aren't the same. We're classifying them. Remember classification in school? Like there are five kinds of vertebrates, nine kinds of invertebrates, things like those. So classifying means types, making types of boredom. So when we get bored, there are different types of being bored. Number seven, age groups most affected by boredom. So at what age group? Like 10 to 15 or 20 to 30, whatever the age group is, in that age group, people become most bored. And number eight, identifying those most affected by boredom. Number seven and number eight are also very similar, but number eight doesn't talk about a age group, maybe a different type of group. Apart from age, how can we group people? What could be other ways of grouping people? Like in this class, if I group you according to age, let's say 16 to 17 years old, 18 to 19 years old, you can group people into that group as well. What other kinds of groups can we make? We can make male, female group. We can make religion, maybe Hindu, Muslim groups like those. We can make race. I don't know. Different kinds of groups can be made according to nationality. So, what kind of group becomes most bored? Now, number seven says age group, but number eight doesn't say what kind of group. So, whatever the answer is. So, out of these eight options, we will find some of them in the text. The second trick is to not forget what the question is. When we read any line, you have to remember, like, okay, that I read that line somewhere earlier, so that you know where to look at. Anyway, from each paragraph, let's do this. From the first paragraph, I will read the first sentence. Let's see if the first sentence gives us the answer or not. Paragraph A, first sentence. We all know how it feels. It's impossible to keep your mind on anything. Time stretches out, and all the things you could do seem equally unlikely to make you feel better. What does it mean now? You know, boring. Have you ever been bored in your life? Obviously, I guess multiple times in your life you may have been bored. Like yesterday, I was waiting in front of a doctor's office. I was very bored till the time it comes for appointment. So, bored. Usually, while waiting, I get very bored waiting for someone. Anyway, we know how it feels. It's impossible to keep your mind on anything. When you try to think, you cannot think because that is very boring. Time stretches out because it means time becomes long. Even 1 hour seems like 5 hours when we are bored. And whatever we do is unlikely to make you feel better. So you can do nothing. Like I tried reading the signs, you tried watching the phone, looking around. Nothing makes you feel better when you are bored. So that is what the first option says. First sentence says. Now let's look at the options. Does any option say we know how it feels? Time stretches out. We can do nothing to cure boredom. No, none of the options say that. Okay, that means the first sentence did not give us the answer. Now, the second sentence may give us the answer. Second sentence, let me read that. But defining boredom so that it can be studied in the lab has proved difficult. I guess that is hinting in that to the answer. Now see what it says. Studying in the lab has proved difficult. What do we do in the lab? What is lab used for? Research, scientific experiments. So in the lab, it says studied in the lab has proved difficult. We cannot study, or it is difficult to study boredom in the lab. We know what boredom is, but we cannot study it in a lab. It is difficult to study that because boredom is not a chemical, boredom is not a substance, it is just a feeling. How to study a feeling in a lab? That is why I guess look at number 4. Option number 4. Problems with a scientific approach to boredom. We know what it is, but scientifically we cannot study it because it is a feeling. Imagine this, like let's say you are very bored watching a movie, it is very boring, we are very bored. Now how to study that you're feeling in a lab? If a scientist comes and asks you, let's go to the lab to study you, the fact that you are going to the lab might make you excited. Difficult to study this thing in a lab. So that is why the second sentence gave us the answer. Okay, now we ignore the first. Number 4 is the answer. Okay. Now paragraph B. And again, if sometimes some people don't know how to write the answer, you can see this question number 14 is paragraph A. So for question number 14, number 4 in Roman number IV would be the answer. Always write exactly like this. Small I, small b, just like the IV is the answer. Okay. Now paragraph B. By asking people about their experience of boredom, Thomas Goetz, must be some scientist, and his team at the University of Constance in Germany have recently identified 5 distinct types. So there are 5 types of boredom, and how can we know? By asking people. Doesn't one of the options talk about that? Types of boredom. Look at number 6. Creating a system of classification for feelings of boredom. So there are 5 types of boredom. So that's what classifying boredom means. Just like we say 5 types of vertebrates like mammals, reptiles. Similarly, 5 types of boredom are there. Okay. You can see first sentence had the answer. Now paragraph C. Psychologist Sandy Mann at the University of Central Lancashire, UK goes further. Look at the option. Any options say psychologist Sandy Mann goes further? No? Okay, first sentence does not give us the answer. Second sentence. All emotions are there for a reason, including boredom. She says. Again, look at the option. Any option says emotions are there for a reason. There is a reason why we become bored. Any option says there is a reason for boredom? No? Okay. Second is also not the answer. Now we don't read the third sentence. Look at this list. We have to read the last sentence now. Last sentence. In fact, she goes so far as to suggest that we should seek out more boredom in our life. Seek out means find. We should find more boredom in our life. If you are not usually bored, you should go and become bored. Any option says we have to be bored in our life. We should be bored. It sounds very counterintuitive. We should not be bored in our life. We should be active. It says we have to be bored. Any option says that? Okay, another option is now second last sentence. Second last sentence. Let me read that sentence for you. Man concluded that a passive, boring activity is best for creativity because it allows the mind to wander. So, boring activity makes us creative. Isn't that a positive thing? That boring makes us creative. Which option was that? Option number 1. The productive outcomes that result from boredom. We have to be bored because boring makes us creative. So we have to be bored because of that reason. So here we had to read 1, 2, 3, 4 sentences till we find the answer, but it's still the other sentences that we avoided reading. Okay, now paragraph D. First sentence again. If psychologist John Eastwood at York University in Toronto, Canada, isn't convinced. Again, any option says psychologist John Eastwood? No? Okay. Second option. Second sentence. If you are in a state of mind wandering, you are not bored, he says. Mind wandering. Wandering means you are running your mind and thinking about things. Sometimes do you do that? We just think randomly about the world. You are mind wandering. You are letting your mind travel around the world. Just mentally travel, not physically travel. Mentally thinking is called mind wandering. Any option says that mind wandering is not boring? No? Okay. Last sentence. Perhaps most worryingly, says Eastwood, repeatedly failing to engage attention can lead to a state where we don't know what to do anymore and no longer care. If we are repeatedly being bored, then it might lead to a situation where we don't care, we don't want to do anything. So does it mean boring is bad? I don't know. What does it mean? We don't care, we don't want to do anything. Maybe let's read the second last, just to be sure. Second last sentence. People try to connect with the world, and if they are not successful, there is that frustration and irritability. Aren't these negative things? Frustration, irritability, the negative things. So boredom can create negative results in us as well. Which option was that? Number five, a potential danger arising from boredom. And the last sentence also confirms that we might not care about anything anymore. Like if let's say you go to school, you go to class, every day it is boring. Then maybe it will come to a day that you don't care anything, you don't care about it anymore. So we should not be very bored as well. Like we should sometimes be very active in our life. Anyway, that sentence was the answer. Now paragraph E. Eastwood's team is now trying to explore why the attention system fails. So why does it fail? Why do we become bored? Look at the options. Does any option say that? Why do we become bored? Eastwood is trying to find that. No? There are only few options remaining. I guess only three options are remaining right now. Okay. Second sentence. It's early days, but they think that at least some of it comes down to personality. So this one. Why do we become bored? Was the first sentence. The second sentence says it is because of our personality. Look at the options. Doesn't it mean what number 8 says? Identifying those affected by boredom. It is because of our personality. It is not age group. It is what kind of people, our personality depends on that we become bored or not. Some people they become bored, some people they don't become bored. It is due to their personality. So number 8, identifying those most affected by now what personality it is, maybe it is explained here as well. If you keep on reading, maybe it is somewhere there. It says that curious people don't become bored anyway. Number 8, I guess, is the answer. And if you are getting what we are doing, that each paragraph, these sentences give us the answer. Now, how many options are remaining? 3. Okay, 3 options remaining, only 1 paragraph remaining. I want you to try this by yourself. Look at paragraph F, very short paragraph, and look at the options. 3 options are remaining. One of them will match. So I'm giving you 2 minutes time. Try to do it by yourself. Last paragraph. Number 3. Because just the first sentence is new source of boredom, means how do we become bored, a new explanation for it, a new source of it. And then the option also says the new cure. If you keep on reading the last sentence, I guess it says perhaps we should leave our phones alone. So we are using our phone so much that is making us bored. We should not use our phone all the time. Then we can cure our boredom, I guess. So number 3, a new explanation and a new cure of boredom. So if you got what we are doing, then I guess this way of solving the questions might be time effective in the exam. Remember, in the exam, we have 1 hour where we get 40 questions. So for each question, we have how long time? 1.5 minutes, 90 seconds for one question. So there are six paragraphs here. For these six paragraphs, to read all the paragraph will take us a very long time. But if we know which sentences to read, we can reduce our time in the exam, and this might help us to find the answer. This is not a trick, because even you have to understand these sentences. Just reading the sentence is not enough. You have to understand what the meaning of it is, at least. But the thing is, that is how the paragraphs are designed. The people who make the questions don't say that this is how you should solve the question, but that is how the paragraphs are made. People make questions in this way so that the answers are usually there. So you have to know this to find the answer. Now I will give you another question like this. I want you to try by yourself now and to see if this trick applies to other questions or not. Why don't you keep on turning and go to, okay, here, IELTS 15 page 8, sorry, 62. IELTS 15 page 62, and try that right now. The text is titled The Desalinator, Producing Clean Water.